Now, who else would be more appropriate to speak about this topic and introduce it to you than Mikko Hyppönen? He is the Chief Research Officer at F-Force, and he's been involved in basically every major security incident in the past. And he's going to be talking to you today about why data is the new oil. With that being said, please welcome to the stage today Mikko Hyppönen. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mikko, and I am the Chief Research Officer for F-Secure Corporation. And when I was doing my keynote here at CEBIT last year, I finished my talk by saying that data is the new oil. And today, I'm starting my keynote by saying that data is the new oil. And we've all heard this saying. We've all heard before that, you know, data is the new oil, data is the new oil. But I actually think it's fairly accurate saying in many ways. Oil has brought the mankind massive amounts of prosperity and massive amounts of problems. And exactly in the same way, data will bring us massive amounts of prosperity and massive amounts of problems. When you work with data, when you collect raw data, you know it's valuable, but you can't really do anything with the data until you refine it. That's the same thing with oil. We know crude oil is valuable, but you can't do anything with oil until you refine it. And over the last months, we've heard a lot about data, about how our data is being used. We've heard because GDPR happened last month, and we heard because Facebook incident happened 2 months ago. The massive incident where Facebook turned out to be in bed with companies which use psychographics to manipulate how we are supposed to think. So let me play you a BBC TV interview with Mark Zuckerberg from 7 years ago. Let's hear what he said 7 years ago.
So who is going to own the Facebook content? The person who puts it there, or you?
The person who's putting the content on Facebook always owns the information, and that's why this is such an important thing, and why Facebook is such a special service that people feel a lot of ownership over. Right? This is their information; they own it.
And you won't sell it?
They often want to. No, of course not. I mean, they want to share it with only a few people.
He wasn't exactly telling the truth, was he? So then we got the delete Facebook campaign, and people were leaving Facebook in mass, and Facebook's stock price plummeted. One of the largest companies in the Silicon Valley was in pieces. Well, not exactly. If we look at Facebook's stock value today, it's at all-time high. You see the small dip at the end. That was the delete Facebook campaign, but apparently it's all over now, and everybody's all forgotten about what happened. One thing Mark Zuckerberg said during his hearings in the US Senate was that they are already compliant with the General Data Protection Regulation of the European Union, and they've been compliant for years or for extended periods of time. Now, the regulation that came into effect last month, well, of course, the biggest effect it had was tons of lawyers were employed for years in building everything we had to do with this, and we all got all too many notifications to our emails about companies, whether we really would like to continue being on their spam mailing lists or not. I guess my favorite example of a piece of software which had to be updated because of GDPR was Nintendo's Super Mario Run. They had to issue an update to be GDPR compliant. And then there was a lot of US-based companies which started blocking European users altogether. You might have seen this. You try accessing a news website in the United States or some other service, and you won't be able to get in because you're coming with a European IP address. This means they don't want to be GDPR compliant. They don't want to spend the time and money to become a compliant for an audience that they don't really care much about. They think they're not doing much business in Europe, so why be GDPR compliant at all? And of course, this feels bad. That's not what GDPR was supposed to do, but that's what it did. And any development that turns internet from a global phenomenon into islands, disconnected islands, is bad development. Internet is one of the few things that we have that are really and truly global, and any development which fragments the internet into pieces or into islands is bad. But there are companies which started blocking European users where I am happy that they are blocking European users. Let me give you an example. Here's Unroll.me, a US-based company which will clean your email inbox. They will remove spam from your email, and they will automatically unsubscribe you from mailing lists that you don't want to be part of. And these guys started blocking European users in May. And this is good. Why? Well, the way Unroll.me was making money was that when you gave access to your email to these guys, then they would go through your email looking for things like receipts. For example, we know that they were searching for users' emails for receipts from the taxi service Lyft. And then they would sell these receipts to competitor Uber. Uber was buying receipts these guys were collecting from your email inbox, and you gave them the permission to do so. And now they can't do it anymore in Europe because of GDPR, which means now they are blocking European users, which is great, because this sucks. So GDPR has its ups and it has its downs. But one thing is great. From now on, when a European company suffers a data leak, they have to announce it. Over the last 10 years, whenever we read news about some company getting hacked and people losing their credit card numbers or passwords, it's always been a US company. Yahoo got hacked, LinkedIn got hacked, on and on. It's never been European companies, because in Europe, depending on the local legislation, European companies didn't need to announce it. And if you don't have to announce that you've been hacked, you will not announce that you've been hacked. And this has now changed. From now on, we will know when our data is being stolen from European databases. So, we've all lived through revolutions. In fact, I believe all of us here, we will live through 3 technological revolutions in one lifetime. The first revolution already happened. That was the internet revolution. The next revolution is happening right now. That's the Internet of Things revolution. And if we live long enough, we will be still around to see the third revolution, the artificial intelligence revolution. The first revolution is easy to understand. If you think back to 1990s when we were using computers like these, the difference from these computers to today's computers is not only speed and the fact that the displays have changed from CRTs to LCDs, it's also that these things were not online. This computer right here has floppies next to it because there is no network. If you want to move files from this computer to another computer, you have to use floppies. This computer is from 1994, and this is exactly from when we started getting online. When we bought this computer to F-Secure, it was disconnected. It was using floppies. But during this computer's lifetime, we put it online. In fact, this was the first web server for our company. We set up our first website in April 1994, this computer right here. And today, it would be hard to find a computer which would not be online. So this revolution already happened. Every computer is now online. And what's happening next, what's happening right now, is that everything else is going online. If it uses power, it will be online. If it uses power, it will be online. Whether it makes sense or not, everything will be online. Everything is becoming cheaper and cheaper and smaller. Technology around is changing. And the vendors that build technology, they also know that data is the new oil. So they want to put everything online so they can collect data from their devices. Today, computers are online, phones are online, but in 10 years, 15 years, everything that uses power will be online as well. Today, when we look at IoT devices, the devices that we see have features for us, the users. So when you, for example, go shopping for a washing machine, you can either buy a traditional washing machine or a smart washing machine. And you can tell the difference. Smart washing machine has a display. Smart washing machine has an app. You can use it from your phone. It's obviously online, and the traditional ones are not online. But in 15 years, when you go shopping for a washing machine, even the traditional washing machines will be online. There won't be a display, there won't be an app. You will not even know that it's online, but it will be online anyway. Because it's not going online to benefit you, the consumer, it's going online to benefit the manufacturer. The manufacturer wants to know where our customers are. They know how are the devices being used. They want to know what kind of problems or errors are there on the devices. Right now, they can't put the traditional devices online because it's too expensive. But everything is becoming cheaper and cheaper. In 15 years, everything will have a chip. And no, they will not be going online to the internet using your Wi-Fi. So you can't block them. They won't use Wi-Fi. They will use 5G. They will use LTE-M. They will use new ZigBee technologies. Everything will be online. Whether you like it or not, it's going to be online. And then, eventually, maybe in a couple of decades, we will most likely see real, wide artificial intelligence. There's a lot of opinions about machine learning and artificial intelligence and whether machines will ever be able to do general intelligence, the kind of intelligence that we humans have. As you know, we already have narrow intelligence. Like when you go doing a Google search and Google already guesses what you're searching for before you even hit enter, that's narrow AI. This is general AI, when we can do all kinds of things and combine expertise from different areas. But there are right now multiple different projects underway where teams are trying to build brain simulators. Simulators which would simulate the whole human brain. And this is very, very hard to do. This visualization shows you 1.4 billion synapses. That's what we have in our brains. 1,400 million synapses and neurons in a human brain, which is, excuse me, really, really hard to simulate. But we are already trying to do this. We're building massively large data centers which are trying to simulate all these synapses. This is hard. We're not even close. But it's pretty easy to see that eventually we will be able to do it. The first brain simulators which will be able to simulate the whole human brain will be massively large, and they will be really, really slow. It's going to be 1,000 times slower than a real human being will be. But computers get faster. So 10 years later, it's going to be as fast as a human. 10 years later, it's going to be 1,000,000 times faster than a human. 10 years later, it's going to be 10 billion times faster than a human, which means it's going to be smarter than every human combined. Technology accelerates. This is going to happen, whether we like it or not. And when we have brain simulations amongst us, they will be just like us. They will think and act just like us. They just don't have bodies. Which means they will, for example, they will work. They can do any job we can do except physical work. Like they can write books. They can do the work of a journalist. They can program. When brain simulators are a reality, every programmer is out of a job. Every journalist is out of a job. And this will happen. When? We don't know. So in our line of business, in computer security, we're seeing big shifts happening right now. I've been working with computer security for 27 years. Of that time, over the last 15, 16 years, we've been seeing organized online crime making money with online attacks, including banking Trojans, credit card theft, botnets, ransom Trojans. But the main choking point for organized crime making money on the internet is how do they get the wealth into their hands. This is the choking point. It's fairly easy to steal. It's fairly easy to steal credit card numbers, but it's hard to move the money into your hands without getting caught. And we've seen plenty of different ways of doing this. Let me play this to you, this CCTV footage from a security camera of a money mule. Take a look at the ATM. He's not even touching it, and it's putting out money. I like ATMs like this. This is how the Karbanak botnet gang was extracting the money they were making. They were hacking ATMs to put money out. Now he's ordering more money from the ATM with his mobile phone. He actually is going to empty the ATM machine. But there's limits on how much money you can make. Yes, you'll be able to make a few tens of thousands of euros this way, but you won't be able to make millions this way. This is a choking point. And this is why we're now seeing the attackers move from traditional attacks to attacks which are targeting cryptocurrency systems in different ways. Because today, money is data. Today, money is data. Cash is analog money. Think about it. Cash is analog money. Most money we use today is digital. And the biggest developments in money right now are all around cryptocurrency systems. So we're seeing attacks where the attackers are using blockchain-based attacks to make money. And from the attacker's point of view, this makes a lot of sense. We're seeing different kinds of attacks. For example, mining attacks. In most cryptocurrency systems, new cash, new money, is being generated by mining. This is a mining rig close to Reykjavik in Iceland. Iceland is a good place to mine because electricity is cheap and cooling is not a problem. So if you can make money by running a computer to do calculations, you don't have to use your own computer. You can use somebody else's computer. And this is why we're seeing botnets being used to mine. This is why we're seeing crypto jacking attacks where websites get hacked and then visitors on that website will be running a script which will mine cryptocurrencies for the attackers. Typically currencies like Monero, which can be efficiently mined on consumer-grade systems today. Another kind of attack we're seeing are ransom Trojans, like WannaCry, like Petya. In fact, we've been tracking ransom Trojans since 2012, and today we have so many ransom Trojan gangs, I can't even fit them on a single slide. We're tracking over 100 different gangs making all their money with ransom Trojans. And then we are seeing scams. For example, here's Elon Musk giving away cryptocurrencies. This is from his Twitter. Just send him a little bit of Ether, the Ethereum currency, and he will send you back 10 times more. Nice guy. Of course, it's not really Elon Musk, it's Elon Musk with 3 L's. But people fall for this. Because Ethereum is based on a public blockchain, we can actually take a look how much money was sent to that address. 283 Ether were sent, which translates to over $200,000. Even I did this. This is my tweet from last month. I'm giving away Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin. Nice guy. But it's not me. My Twitter account is not called Ravari43. My Twitter account is called Mikko. But people fall for this. And then we see scams where people are using online exchanges to convert euros into Bitcoin and Bitcoin into euros. And when these get hacked, the losses can be really large. These are all examples of cryptocurrency exchanges which have been hacked over the last years. And from the attacker's point of view, this is like the perfect target. If you are an attacker, you can either target a traditional bank or a cryptocurrency exchange. They both have a lot of money. Banks have a lot of money, but cryptocurrency exchanges have a lot of money as well because the valuations of cryptocurrencies have skyrocketed. But the difference is, excuse me, the difference is traditional banks have security teams of 1,000 people. They've been doing computer security for decades. These are startups. These have 20 people in the whole company. They don't have a long history of computer security, which makes them an easy target. And the amount of money you can steal from these can be in hundreds of millions. It can even be in billions because of the high valuations. The latest case like this that we saw was yesterday. This happened yesterday. This is CoinRail, the 4th largest cryptocurrency exchange in South Korea. They were hacked yesterday. They lost 50 million euros yesterday. And from the attacker's point of view, this is perfect because when they get their hands on the money, it's game over. It's anonymized and it's untrackable. We can't follow the money. They can take it wherever they want and we can't find them. Which is the reason why ransomware has become such a big problem, which is the reason why we saw Petya last July. Petya last July was the biggest case we've seen in years. In fact, I believe that Petya was the most expensive computer security incident in history. I believe Petya was more expensive than any malware case ever. More expensive than WannaCry, more expensive than I Love You, or Melissa, or Blaster, or Slammer, or Sasser. More expensive than any hack ever, more expensive than any data leak ever. And the companies which got infected by Petya last July got infected because they were running a financial software. Typically, they did not get infected because they would have vulnerable systems or unpatched computers. They got infected because they were running a bookkeeping software, a software which you could use to do bookkeeping and to file your taxes. The company that made this bookkeeping software is called MEDoc, and this company is headquartered in Kyiv, in Ukraine. They got hacked sometime last June, and then on 5th of July last summer, the attackers used the official update servers to issue an update to this bookkeeping software. And that update was Petya. If you were running this software on 5th of July, you got infected. And last April, 5 different intelligence agencies, United States, United Kingdom, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, all announced that they have evidence which proves that Petya was launched by the Russian government and that Petya was actually a military strike against Ukraine. A military strike from Russia against Ukraine. And Russia and Ukraine are at war, which would make this a cyber attack in a cyber war. And this actually wouldn't be the first time Russia is attacking Ukrainian systems during this war between Russia and Ukraine. 3 years ago, we saw an attack from Russia targeting the 2nd largest electricity grid provider in Ukraine, a company called this company. I'm joking, I know how to say it. It's Prikarbatooblenergo. Prikarbatooblenergo. This company was hacked 3 years ago, and their systems were used to cut power from hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians in the middle of the winter. Not only did they cut power in the middle of the winter, they also overwrote the firmware on the serial to Ethernet converters that were being used by operators at Prikarpato Oblenergo to control their electricity systems, which means the operators could no longer use their computers to control their own network. They couldn't regain control. They had to physically go on location to fix the problems. Question: how do you put out a fire in the middle of the winter? Well, if indeed the attack was from Russia against Ukraine, how come this was not the story we heard last July? Last July we heard the story of Western companies getting infected by Petya. We weren't hearing about Ukraine being targeted in cyber war. We heard about companies like these having massive problems with their IT systems because they had internal Petya infections. And these companies have nothing to do with Ukraine. They're not Ukrainian companies. They're not based in Ukraine. Why were they having problems with Petya? Well, even though these companies are not Ukrainian, they are global. They're all so big that they do business in every country on the planet. For example, Maersk, the 4th largest logistics provider in the world, headquartered in Denmark. Well, they ship containers to every country on the planet, including Ukraine. And if you do enough business in Ukraine, you have to file taxes in Ukraine. And the de facto software that you use to file taxes in Ukraine is ME-Doc. And if you have ME-Doc on one computer in your internal network, then you got Petya last July. So the chairman of Maersk was speaking about this problem in February in Davos at the World Economic Forum. Let me play you a clip from his comments.
That meant that we were actually collateral damage of a probably...
Can we turn up the volume?
That meant that we were actually collateral damage of a probably a state attack situation. The impact of that was that we basically found that we had to reinstall our entire infrastructure. We had to install 4,000 new servers, 45,000 new PCs, 2,500 applications.
4,000 servers, 45,000 workstations. When Petya hits, it encrypts the files on the computer, then it overwrites the master boot record on the computer. The master boot record then contains the small program which shows the victim the ransom note. This display right here. Which means the infected machines are no longer running Windows. When you boot them up, the BIOS will count the memory, then it starts booting by loading the MBR from the hard drive and running it, and that displays this text and nothing else. Infected machines are no longer running Windows, now they are running Petya. And if you think that's bad when it happens on your laptops and desktops, think about when it happens on your servers. Think about when it happens on your ADs, your authentication servers. Even the users whose laptops are not overwritten can't do any work because they can't log into the network because there is no network. And the worst part is that you can't fix your servers with any of the tools you have, because all the tools you have rely on remote management of your servers, and they assume your servers are running Windows, but your servers are no longer running Windows. And this is the reason why so many companies last July were sending IT consultants on planes to data centers around the world, carrying Windows boot CD-ROMs in their backpacks to go on location to rebuild servers around the world to recover from Petya. And this is why I believe that Petya was the most expensive computer security incident in history. The only one that could even closely compete with Petya is probably the sand wiper incident 6 years ago, which was the attack targeting the oil refinement systems in Iran, where the losses were in the billions. But I think Petya was even more expensive. So, what did these companies do wrong? What was their mistake? Well, actually, nothing really. Nothing really. It wasn't a question of unpatched servers or unupdated networks. Their sin was that they were running a financial software and that they had updates enabled. When we are asked, is it a good idea to have automatic updates enabled on software, we would say yes. That's what we've been telling users for a decade. Automatic updates are a good idea because then when there are security patches, you get them deployed automatically. Well, in this case, it was the automatic updates which burned these companies. It's hard to criticize them for what they were doing. What they could have done better, though, is to detect when something starts going wrong in their networks. Because for years and years, we've been thinking about our networks as vaults. The data inside our networks is the valuable thing, and we are protecting it by trying to keep all the attackers out all the time. That's what we were doing for the last 20 years with computer security. Trying to keep all the attackers out all the time. Well, if you have a really good vault with really thick walls, with really good lock, with really thick door, then you do not need a motion detector inside the vault. Like, why would you put a motion detector inside the vault? Nobody's going to get in the vault. You don't need a motion detector in the vault. Well, actually, it's kind of nice to have a motion detector inside the vault, just in the case the attacker thinks about a way of getting into your systems that you didn't think about. Like, I don't know, coming in through the ceiling, coming in through the ventilation shaft, something like this. And if that happens, it's actually very nice to have a motion detector inside your vault. Exactly in the same way, it's very nice to have motion detectors inside your network. To have sensors in your network which are looking for anomalies, or even better, which are looking at what normal traffic looks like. Which are looking at what normal traffic looks like, and then they can tell when something weird happens. Like, why is this one computer connecting all the other computers in our network suddenly? Or why is this laptop suddenly sending gigabytes of data to an IP address in China at 4 a.m.? Things like that. But you won't be able to tell what weird looks like if you don't know what normal looks like first. So you need sensors inside of your network. We can no longer assume we can keep all the attackers out all the time. So instead, we should focus on being able to detect a breach and to be able to react to a breach. And this is more important the bigger your network is. Question: how many of the Fortune 500 companies are hacked right now? Answer: 500. Every single one of them. Why? Because every single one of the Fortune 500 companies has a massively large global network of computers. They all have at least 100,000 workstations. And if you have 100,000 workstations, you have a breach. It might be a small breach. It might be a single infected laptop at an airport lounge, but it's still a breach. So we have to assume breach. We have to assume breach, and we have to focus on being able to detect and respond to breaches. And you think this is science fiction? Well, let's take a look at one of the largest credit card breaches in history, the retail chain Target, which got hacked in the United States. They did not get hacked through their firewall or their desktops or their laptops. No. They got hacked through their ventilation systems. And no, I'm not talking about Tom Cruise coming in through the ventilation system. I'm speaking about the fact that they were hacked through the PLCs, which were controlling their ventilation and refrigeration systems. The ventilation in this building, right here, this is being controlled by computers, by PLCs, most likely built by Siemens, or maybe Honeywell, or Schneider. And those are computers. And if they are connected in the same network with the rest of your systems, they can be used for lateral movement, which is exactly what happened here. We have to assume breach. And we have to assume this in new kinds of systems. The computer which we were using to run our website in 1994 was a 486DX 25 megahertz with 40 megabyte hard drive. By today's standard, this is a really slow computer. It's laughable how slow it is compared to today's i7 chips from Intel. But it wasn't too bad at the time. It was fast enough to run a web server. So I wonder, how small would this computer be today? Well, in February, IBM announced a new breakthrough in chip design. This here is a pile of salt. These are grains of salt. And here on top of the pile of salt, you'll see a black dot. That dot is a chip. And that chip is roughly as powerful as the computer which we were using to run our website in 1994. This is where we are today. Everything is becoming a computer. Everything is going online. If it uses power, it will be a computer. And yes, data is the new oil. And this truth is driving everything into the online world. This is driving all devices to be connected, not to benefit the users, but to benefit the manufacturers, because they want to collect data. But data is also a liability. If you collect data, then you have to secure it. Then you have to encrypt it. Then you have to back it up. The more data you collect, the more expensive that is. And if you work with oil, you have to worry about oil leaks. And if you work with data, you have to worry about data leaks. And for that, I wish you good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wow. So we decided to have a quick 1 or 2 question Q&A because we have the time. And if you have one burning question right now, just raise your hand. And Mikko will be happy to answer it for you.
You can also ask your questions auf Deutsch, and you can translate.
Okay.
Or in Finnish.
Jawohl, Deutsch, English? Okay, let me just come down here. Do we have a mic? Okay, I'll just take a question.
Hi. I also have the picture in my head of building walls about data, but I found out possibilities of the security as a service models. To put out my security infrastructure into other companies, into clouds. Can you tell your view about this? I think there are a lot of possibilities, but but I know people who are afraid of it.
Okay.
So I can summarize.
Sure, thank you.
The question was, about security as a service, basically about outsourcing your security. And that's a scary thought, because the idea of moving your most important things, your data, into hands of someone else is scary. But then again, when you compare to the real world, that's what we're doing with our real world security already. Most companies don't have their own employees guarding the building in the middle of the night with a rifle. No, they outsource it to a security company, to a guarding company. And exactly in the same way, we can outsource the security of our data to service providers. And in some ways, this is the only way we can do it, because we have a very big lack of talent. We don't have enough people for every company. We don't have enough security people in the world to be hired by every company. So we have to move the experts we have into pools, into service providers, and then they can secure larger amounts of companies in a centralized fashion. So we are going very strongly into a security as a service model, and I do believe it is the future.
Thank you. So do we have, yes, I'll take one more question. Thank you very much.
Actually, I have two, but I'll try to make it short. You said that it is necessary to have sensors in your network to collect the knowledge, what is normal in your network, and to detect if there happens something irregular. Mm-hmm. But in order to do so, you have to collect lots of data. Mm-hmm. Probably with machine learning, you sense what is normal and what is irregular. And wouldn't that be another interesting attacking point for an attacker? That knowledge is quite useful for somebody to cloak, to get in, to manipulate your net. And the second very short question is, have the bad guys already won this kind of war?
All right, first of all, I hate the way you think. The idea of using the data collected by security systems by the attackers, I really hate the idea. The key question here is, how is the data collected and how is it moved? Security solutions like these are typically cloud-based, so they collect data at the customer network, then they move it to some cloud service and use machine learning to figure out what normal looks like so they can look for abnormalities. So ask your vendors, what are you actually collecting? How are you collecting it? How do you send it? Where do you send it? How do you store it? How do you anonymize it? And the vendors which are able to answer your questions are the vendors you want to work with. This is a crucial question. And there are vendors who do this correctly, who don't send unnecessary information and who anonymize the information so that it's not useful for an attacker. And the question about whether we've already lost. Well, I think we've already lost the fight for our privacy. I think that's already gone. But I refuse to accept that we would have lost the fight for our security. That fight is still going on, and I think we should all refuse to give in on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.